Nolan Wells, a name America shouldn't have to learn. What we have here is a three-ring circus. Wouldn't you say it's safe to say at this point? This has to be single-handedly the worst handling of a murder investigation by law enforcement that I've seen in my lifetime. What do we know about the timeline so far? There's so many people that have injected their version of events. Up feels like down, down feels like up, left feels like right, and right feels like left. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Those old folks really knew what they were saying when they came up with those old sayings, those idioms, huh? What we have is a failure to communicate. And this has to be single-handedly the worst handling of law enforcement in a murder investigation that I've ever seen in my entire life. The timeline, there's so much confusion, so much misdirection, so much that's gotten misconstrued. It's kind of hard to tell what the timeline is. But as it said, a young man was left on an island without a way to communicate, supposedly catching a ride with another person in another boat. But to the contrary of the other person on the other boat, he got back on the boat that he came with. Alcohol was being served. Narcotics was being used. They want to keep it PG, but that's exactly what it is. It's the 4th of July. People were turning up. People were getting wet. And I think animosity turned to jealousy. Jealousy turned to hatred. And hatred became the motive for murder. And these young men are being assisted by people at every level of this three-ring circus, this Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey circus. Yes. And to say we're in 2020 whatever, it's ridiculous. It's simply ridiculous, even at its most surface level. And on one side, I feel like that. But on the other side, it's like, have you ever been to Mississippi? Do you know how things function in Mississippi? Because they move a little bit different and a little bit slower than everybody else. And it's by design. And I'm not shocked at any of the players that are playing a pivotal role in turning this tragedy into a debauchery. That's exactly what's happening. And I personally feel that there are too many aspects of this legal procedure. They always want to talk about law and order. Well, there's too many people in too many places of position in the hierarchy of this law for us to ever have order. Call it what you want. These people, like for instance, a medical examiner, a judge, a police chief, a sheriff. They all take oaths to not abuse their power. And I've seen enough foot dragging. I've seen enough sloth-footedness in. I've seen enough actions from people that can be deemed nothing less than haphazard. Because if the shoe was on the other foot, we'd be scouring the four corners of the earth to find out who did it. Someone would be in jail by now. Make no mistake. So when the parallels are reversed, it's a culture shock. It's like someone pouring cold water down your back on a summer day. It's jolting. It's angering because you come to the painful realization that justice is only just for a few and not for all. And until we can have an impartial legal process, then what's good for the goose is not good for the gander. I see a total disregard because the one thing that I haven't heard any of these people from the accused side say was my condolences. Sorry for your loss. I mean, deleting your entire social media profile is one thing within itself, let alone 3 or 4 or more people doing this in succession. It raises concern. It leads me to believe that someone's being coached. Someone's being schooled on how they need to approach the legal system. And what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And I look at it like this. There was a window where this could have been deemed as an accident, as a mistake. Would you have done time in prison? Most likely. But people would have understood if someone would have came out within the first week and been like, it was a mistake, something happened, it had an accident, he fell, hit his head, and he stopped breathing. He became unconscious. I think people could have understood that, but there's been enough suspect behavior and weird activity that has transpired between groups of people that I'm hard pressed to believe what anybody has to say. I really am. And I've seen this unfold too many times in too many legal situations where they say, just wait for the court to do their process. And then the process happens, but it happens in a way that it makes you look at the process with a level of bias. So the underlying question remains, how is a person supposed to feel when they know, when they inherently know that the only process that they have to get justice in a court of law has an implicit bias attached to it, baked in it by default? How is a person supposed to feel? How is a person supposed to react? And how many times is a person supposed to see an injustice happen before something gets done about it? This segues into my next part. Don't fall for the bait. What is all this right now? Because if you're at this part, you're probably at the timeline where you're like, why does it feel like everybody's crashing out and they're malfunctioning and everybody else is just tightening the screws on the engine block? Because they are. They're doing this because they want to get you. They want to get you to react. And once they get you to react, everything else is going to happen as planned, because right now things aren't going as planned. And they need the public to be outraged. They need the public to go into a mob mentality. And I'm telling you, don't fall for the bait. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because they're counting on you losing your patience, losing your ability to think critically, losing your level of discernment. It's more important now than ever to understand that this is not a battle of flesh, but it is a war of spirits and principalities. We're fighting something bigger here. And it may not be an easy fight, and we might lose some people through the process. But understand, this too shall pass. But we got to get through the storm before we can ever see calm seas. And by the way, calm seas never made sailors, by the way. So I think this case is about to go on a 1080-degree roller coaster ride. And I think we're about to see firsthand just how decrepit and rancid the state of Mississippi actually is. Now, my personal opinion is, why did it take so long to do some of the simplest things? Why did this young man not have his throat, his esophagus, his trachea, his entire neck region was gone for the funeral, and other body parts as well, making the independent medical examiner's autopsy inconclusive? And he can't make a move until they reveal the evidence that they have. So we're at a stalemate right now. And I don't know if, no, I know what it is. They want to see what that autopsy says so they can match what that autopsy says. One thing about this medical examiner you have to understand is this, because everybody's got history. When I say this is compromised at multiple levels, I mean it. And allow me to explain it. Medical examiner, right? It's a white lady, right? I care not to know her name because of how she's handled people that look just like me. And if I was to lose my life and end up on her autopsy slab, we treat it the same way. And I've heard at least 4 cases of men, black men, that have been found with ropes around their necks hanging from trees. And every last one of these cases was ruled undetermined or inconclusive, meaning no more need to look in this direction, boys. The coast is clear. I don't appreciate that because, once again, right is right and wrong is wrong. And if you came to do a job for the public, then not even your own ambition should get in the way of your job. Period. Full stop. And I don't see that. We go to this judge. Let's talk about the judge for a minute. there was one ruling she had where this woman felt she feared for her life to hand over the kid to the father, the father of the child, and she told him, she told her that you don't have nothing to be worried about. Just meet up with him in the Dollar General parking lot, and he shot her to death as she handed off her kid. That was one of her rulings. Another ruling was a woman lost her life, and I believe the daughter of that woman wanted to speak about it, and she told her that she couldn't speak about her family member. I mean, take a pick. Does it matter at this point? There's so many inconsistencies, and there's so many there's so many stories that I'm hard pressed to believe that anybody's being honest at this point. And this is looking more like self-preservation than anything else. And I think that if we knew better, we do better. And if we know better, we show better. How have we come so far, but be so far away? How are you my neighbor when you compile that with the way that we're mishandling our youth as the elder adults? We should be disappointed in ourselves. We should be disappointed in ourselves because we let the future down. Now, they say it's not about how you fall, but it's about how you get back up. And one thing that has made situations like this go go business as usual, right? It's silence, because silence is compliance. But I have reason to believe in the fiber of my being that there are people who don't look like me right now that ain't willing to go for none of that. And this isn't a plea for help, but this is a call to arms. It's important in these times that we say what we mean and we mean what we say. There will come a time sooner than later where we're all going to be tested on the type of business that we stand on. And if you fall for anything, you'll stand for nothing. And right now, I see a bunch of people standing for nothing. And I'm asking, when are we going to start standing for something? Because I'm disappointed in this process. The reason why I'm disappointed in this process is because when I saw this young man, I saw my son. I saw my son and his life being extinguished, and a whole bunch of, I don't know what happened. We were all hanging out, but, last time I saw him was 7 hours ago. And I think there's no harder thing to deal with than a parent who has lost a child before the parent time has come, right? And it leaves a hole. It leaves a hole in the parents that it can't be filled with anything. And the one thing that I constantly keep hearing reverberating in my head as I'm saying all this, not one person from the police chief to that judge who decided to inject this alibi, this timeline, as if we asked you for it. The governor, the medical examiner, not one person has said, I'm sorry for your loss, Mrs. Wells, Mr. Wells. My condolences for the death of your child. Not once did I hear that. And that's the most disappointing part about it all. That you can look somebody in the face just like this and be totally okay with not being right in life and thinking everybody else is going to be okay with that. Got another thing coming, Buster. They'll show you better than I can tell you. All right. This isn't going to end the way that you think it's going to end. Try as you may, squirm as much as you think you need to, slither even more, but none of it's going to work. None of it. Mark my words. You're going to try, and you're going to give it the ye old college try. Nothing's going to work. And the reason why nothing's going to work is because everybody ain't down with that social contract anymore. Bacon's rebellion. This is the thing nobody wanted to happen. Poor people realized that they were all getting dogged out. Not just black, not just white, not just Puerto Rican, Spanish, everybody that isn't wealthy, super rich, doesn't get preferred treatment. And we all have to come to the realization at one point that I'm not your enemy. You're not my enemy. The person over there is the enemy. Faceless, soulless entities like BlackRock, that's your enemy. You want to talk about enemy? That's your enemy. That's your enemy. And I'm not saying that to go incite violence or hurt anybody, but if we're going to call a spade, let's call it exactly what it is. You couldn't pay me. You couldn't pay me to scratch that. I know you're probably thinking that this is business as usual, right? Good old Mississippi town business, right? You've never been so wrong in your life. You've never been so wrong about something in your life. You don't realize just how much of a microscope is on top of your head right now. Every last one of you. And one way or the other, the truth will come out. Because dead bodies tell stories. In closing, it shouldn't be this hard to treat each other with a level of decency. It shouldn't be that hard for us to be cordial with each other, even if we got problems with each other. We should be able to see past some of the indifferences to get to the bigger picture. And I'm seeing too much of the same old, same old. If we expect to get past this threshold, this junction in life, we're going to have to evolve. We're going to have to level up. We're going to have to level up, definitely. And I believe in you. I know you believe in me. So what I'm saying right now is it's time for us to put all the bullshit aside and realize that we are in the fight of our lives. We're in the fight of our lives. And this is for all the marbles. This This means everything, not just this one situation, because I think this situation can spawn copycat situations. But I believe how we treat this situation, and we've shown them quite a bit, because you have to understand, some of these cases don't go as far as they do unless there's outrage on the internet. And we provided so much outrage that, first of all, they didn't have a timeline. They didn't really have a story to tell properly that made sense legally, lawfully on paper. And everything's shaky. It's spooky. And my thing is, if nothing happened, then it shouldn't be hard to explain what happened. But the reason that so many people are so reluctant to come forward with the accounts of what happened only leads a person to believe there's more than meets the eye with this. We're going to play it by ear, because I think things are going to develop from day to day, because they decided to do this this sloth-footed, heavy-footed Quentin Tarantino backward storytelling. They wanted to do it like this, and they're keeping us on a need-to-know basis. And the game is cold, but it's fair. And I need all of you to know, especially people that don't know how the South operates. Mississippi is not the only place. They got some spots in Texas that's just like this. They got some spots in Alabama that's just like this. They got some spots in Florida that's just like this. And you will become a news conference without your consent. How does that happen? You leave your house to go out for a day of fun and excitement before you had one of the most important days of your life the next day. This is why when people say, oh, he was drunk, I can hardly believe it. I can hardly believe it. Why would he do anything? An athlete who came clearly from an athlete father, right? As I did myself. I just didn't go that path. But what I'm saying is, he knew how important that day was. And I don't think he was going to let anything get in front of that, not even himself. Because if the next day meant so little, which was the 5th of July, why were there multiple accounts of people saying that he was arguing about not engaging in certain activities? There's too many contradictions in this story for me to feel comfortable with believing what's being said. I feel like people are being coached, and different levels and hierarchy of law enforcement are involved in this directly. And it's deplorable. It's disgusting. But it's nothing that I haven't seen before. And that is probably what resonates with me the most. The fact that we've all seen this trial. This right here, we've all seen how these trials have gone. Latasha Harling, Rodney King, Stephen Chow. I mean, do we need to keep going? Because there's more than enough stories, and then there's stories that you've never heard of, like the woman in Minnesota who lost her son in a similar fashion that Nolan Wells died, with his all-white friends, and he drowned at a creek in St. Paul, Minnesota, I believe. And I try to be on the internet almost every day, and I never heard about this story. This story is 5 years old. But it just goes to show you, because when you go to the case of Ahmaud Arbery, the video of his death literally didn't show itself on the internet until a month after he was dead. How did they do that? That would always confuse me. How did they do that? How did the whole state of Georgia not speak about this man? And I think it's less about black and it's less about white and it's more about how we treat each other. And if this is the way that we're going to treat our future, our children, we're damned before we start. So what are we going to do about it? Because I think there's something that can be done. I think there's something that all of us can participate in. I wholeheartedly believe it. And how you participate, you put a rod in your spine. You stand for something, even if you've never stood for nothing. Today is the day that you stand for something because you're more than just a 9 to 5. You're more than just a meager existence. You're more than that. See, that was part of the trick. They wanted us all to believe that we were worthless when in fact we're priceless. And on this journey that we take, I want you to come with me. Because if this resonated with you, then we're the same tribe. We're already related. We've known each other our entire lives. We just met each other for the first time. Hi, it's nice to meet you. It's time to stand on business. Too many people are playing.